So you've been thinking about composting, and honestly, it's just not been something that sounds like you can do yourself. It sounds expensive, it sounds dirty, it sounds gross, right? That's kind of how I was before. We're gonna go through different composting units at a different time, but right now I wanna focus on the dirty, cheap version you can do yourself. This is a pallet composter. First thing you need to do a pallet composter is pallets. So there are free pallets that you can find on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. Some people just give them away, warehouses that don't use them. If you have the opportunity in your area, look for free pallets. The best part about free pallets is that they are free. I, unfortunately, was not able to find free pallets that worked for the unit that I was making. So I ended up purchasing pallets from a coloring book factory for $1 a piece. Again, if you can find free pallets, find free pallets. The second thing you need to do is to decide on what type of unit you're gonna build. So how tall do you want your unit? And are you gonna build 1 or 2 stalls in your pallet composter? For the purpose of my video, I built 2 stalls. So for me, I needed 2 sides, 2 backs, and a middle piece, and then 2 doors. If you're just building 1 stall, you really only need 4 pallets. 4 pallets, similar size. If you can find those, that is your number one thing that you need in order to get started. Second thing you need to have access to, whether you own it or you borrow it, you need to have a drill or an impact driver. Along with that, some screws. The specific length and depth of the screws I've listed on the website. So number 1, pallet. Number 2, screws. Plus impact driver or drill. The fourth thing you need, depending on the size of your pallet, you might need to be able to connect the 2 pallets together. We had to do that in the case of the unit that I built. The pallets that I found, they were 3 feet wide and only 2 feet tall. So in order to get them up to be 4 feet tall, I had to buy some connectors. Again, I have links to the connectors in the actual blog post, but those are stupid cheap as well. All in all, for this pallet composter, if you can find free pallets, you can borrow or already own a drill or an impact driver. Screws, you just have screws hanging around, or you can purchase some screws for maybe $5. And then buying the connectors if you need them. I believe they were about 80 cents a piece and I needed 4. So now I'm putting myself in the spot that's $3.20 for math. And all in all, you're looking at a really cheap unit that you can use at your house. So step 1 for the entire project is to gather your materials. Step 2, find the location at your house that you want to put your unit in. Ideal location would be somewhere that is away from your house. It can be right next to it if you have a small lot and that is what you're working with. If you have more space, if you can find space at the back of your house, if you've got a garden, put it by your garden. Ideal location from a surface level, if you have somewhere that's flat, that is ultimately where you should put it. If there's a little bit of a grade, that's okay, but flat is best for the compost. You want to try and have any rainwater that comes down into your compost stay within your compost. For the video, which we're about to watch here in a second, I have used a concrete slab. I have no idea why there's a concrete slab at the back of our house. It existed when we moved in, but for right now, that's what we've got, and the composting unit is on the concrete slab. So find the location. Another thing to consider when you're finding your location is if there is shade or not. Do you want some shade to protect from rain? There are different ways that you can combat rain from just washing out your compost constantly. I'll go over that in a different blog and video, but when you're looking at your location, a little bit of shade isn't a bad thing. Okay, we've got our materials. We've got our location. Now we're gonna flip over to our video. And what you can see me doing here is starting to set up my materials before I screw them together. It's that old saying, measure twice, cut once. You really want to make sure that you're laying out your pallets how you want them to be before you actually screw them together. So for what I've done here, I needed to make sure that the pallets were kind of similar shape depending on if they were going on the sides or the back. And I found the pallets that had the skinnier gaps between the wood planks, they would be better for the back. So I pulled out 4 of those, and then I mashed them up to be the back of my unit. And then the ones that had a little bit wider of a slat, I left them for the sides to allow some airflow to cross flow through. In addition to that, I needed one for a centerpiece because I was building 2 different stalls. If you're just building one stall, have one that has less gaps. You can use that as the back. If you have some that have a little bit more gap, use them as the sides. There's no real science to it. You've got 4, stand them up, make sure that they look good in the location that you found, and then we'll move on to the next step. The next step is starting to build the foundation. For my unit, because it had the 2 stalls, it was important for me to build the backs and the middle piece. That's really the core foundation of my unit. The sides are there, obviously, to help enclose the composting pile and to keep critters out. But really the crux of the foundation is going to be those back pallet pieces in the center. The center divides out the two piles depending on what you're doing with them. We're putting together the pallets first by using those connectors that I referenced. Because I want to make my pallet composting unit taller, I used the connectors to stack the 2 pallets on top of each other. So you can see us doing that. Then after that happened, we went ahead and put a centerpiece in and connected those together. So now we've got a really strong foundation. Everything's in the location that we want. And next, we're gonna move on to putting the sides on. So stacking the 2 sides, if they need stacked, put them on top of one another. And then after those are complete, screw them into the core foundation. So now, when you're done, both sides, you'll have 2 stalls without a door in front of them. Pretty simple, pretty easy. So the next thing you want to do is start to decide on your door. I'm saying pretty simple, pretty easy. You probably have had to have paused this video to actually screw things together. One thing that I will say before we move on to the door is the impact driver really did help. I kind of joke about the impact driver because my husband just loves anytime we can have an excuse to use the impact driver. Typically a drill works for most things, but the impact driver just makes this like horrendous noise that he finds very satisfying. Honestly scares me, but it works, and it did work really nicely when we were screwing some of the actual pallets together. And I highly recommend, if you are in the process of screwing these things together, use an impact driver. Okay, the door. If you want, you can do a hinge on your unit. I elected not to use a hinge. I like to be able to just scoot the pallet out of the way, really get into the pile. It allows me more flexibility to turn my pile, to step away from my pile. Some stuff can go over on the sides and I can scrape it back in with a shovel. I don't recommend hinging it together. If you want to, you absolutely can. Buy a hinge, add that to your materials list when you go to your hardware store. If you're just using one as a door, just slot it in there. Just pick a pallet, get it in there, try to get it as close as you can to eliminate critters. If you've got dogs, dogs are really investigative. They'll check it out as well, but put the door in there. After you've got that done, it's time to start adding your materials. I'm gonna go over compost composition in a basic video blog in about a week and a half, so you'll have some more information on that coming soon. We've got other videos that we're gonna be posting to help you compost along the way, tips and tricks. You can already check out our Compost This, Not That flyer. It's right on our website under the Learn tab. We're in the process of putting more stuff up constantly. If you have any questions, if you need anything at all, please do not hesitate to reach out. My name is Megan. Thank you for sharing this time with me today. Good luck. If you've already done a pallet composting unit and you want to share it with us, please share it. All right, so this is a new YouTube channel that I have just created, a new channel. I am posting content at least once a week, working on more. I've already got the next 6 videos lined up, and we're gonna be releasing those over the next 2 weeks. If you've liked this video, please like it, please subscribe, share with your friends, and leave me some comments. I'd love to hear from you.